From DocuSign, this is Developing with DocuSign. This video is a continuation of our multi-part instructional series on how to migrate your application from DocuSign Legacy OAuth to OAuth. My name is Nima Polat, a developer advocate with DocuSign. In this video, we will continue our educational series on how to migrate your apps from legacy authentication to secure OAuth 2.0 JWT authentication. In this piece, we will look at our Node.js SDK and we will show you how we can migrate away from legacy authentication. Before using OAuth 2.0 to obtain access token, one was sending their account password in plain text as a header. As simple and as straightforward as that seems, it goes without saying it's insecure and should be avoided. If you have already built integrations that use the outdated means for API authentication, you should start migrating them to use the latest OAuth standard, which our SDKs support. In this video, I'll show you how easy it is for you to migrate your integration to use OAuth 2.0. If you use Node.js, your code probably looks something similar to the following. A quick way to know if you are using the old way of authentication is to search for the x-docusign-authentication header, where you will be providing your account, email, password, and integrator key as an object. You would then go ahead and perform DocuSign-related actions using DocuSign's API client object. In this case, voiding an envelope. Now let's recreate this same code using the new OAuth methods provided by our SDK. But before we do so, we need to gather some information from our admin dashboard. Let's do that first. First, let's go ahead and collect some information that we're going to need to perform OAuth. Navigate to your Apps and Keys page. And then find the integrator key that you will be using in your integration. Then navigate down to RSA key pairs and generate a pair. You want to go ahead and save the public key and your private key in a safe location, as you will be needing them in order to perform OAuth. Next up, you want to navigate to the user page and you want to find the user ID of the user that you'll be impersonating. So select the user and go ahead and open it. And make note of the API username. This is the user ID that you'll be using to impersonate when you use OAuth. Alright, let's look at how your code would look like after migration to OAuth 2.0 authentication. There are a couple of notable differences that we'll discuss here. First, we're using a JWT auth grant flow here. This is the easiest way to migrate your code away from legacy auth. If the account user is not present, or the web browser can be redirected, then the legacy auth should be updated to the JWT grant. For the scopes parameter, define the scopes that you need. For e-signature applications, use the signature scope. The impersonation scope is assumed and is not needed in a JWT grant request. You specify the user ID that you're impersonating when calling request JWT user token. Secondly, note that you will need to use the RSA key pair you created in a previous step along with your integrator key. You will need to provide the private key when requesting a JWT user token. The reason being is that one needs to sign the token payload before sending it along with the request. You provide this parameter as a byte array. Once you obtain the access token from request JWT user token of API client, you will need to add a default header with authorization as key and bearer access token as value. Please keep in mind that the token is only valid for an hour and you will need to get a new token when the old one expires. You can also use the same token to make as many API calls while the token is valid. You do not need to get a new token for every API call. The rest of your code will remain intact. That's it. It really is that simple to migrate your auth from insecure legacy auth over to the latest OAuth that our SDK supports. Lastly, let's run this code and let's see it in action. I'm going to put a breakpoint where we got an access token. I'm going to run the code. Alright, so let me step over this. So as you can see, we got a valid access token right now. Now, the next step, we're going to set this access token as our default header. And that's it. That's all we need to do. The rest of the code remains intact. Thank you very much for joining us today. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any future videos that we'll be making in this series. Thank you.